The Blue Lagoon, there's been some lovely sized shad coming out, as well as a few GTs and grunter.
So there's going to be a lot of flatfish around. So sharpen those hooks, make those traces, and get ready for a firing week.
Durban Bay, grunters, snappers, small cobs, quite a few kingfish around, a lot of kingies around.
There you go, buddy. Hit now!
This is the Angler News SA podcast. I'm Vanessa Green.
Hey, hello brothers and sisters of angling. It's been another week in KZN where we still managed to find the fish. Who would have thought? Last week's weather looking absolutely crazy. We've seen monkeys being blown off the trees. We've seen the ants flying to the neighbor's yard. Guys, the wind factor was insane. Well, you know what? It is KZN. It is the East Coast. And we did have anglers head out. And not just head out, they found some fish. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Not everywhere along the coastline was fireworks. There were some areas that were better than the others. Some produced some pretty good fish, where some was, challenging times. However, as history shows, it is not all doom and gloom. After the storm, once that dust settles, the fish are going to be going absolutely crazy, and we cannot wait for it. And as we cannot wait for it, our reporters are ready. They're ready to give us the latest scoop of what's been going on. They're going to tell us exactly where those feeding zones are, what we're going to target in some of that dirty brownish water, what we're going to target over those next couple days of northeasterly wind, and more importantly, where to find the fish. All right, so we're going to get into it. But before we do, guys, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Kingfisher.
The Kingfisher are the leading fishing tackle specialist. We stock gear for every facet of fishing, from carp to cooter, marlin to trout. Basically, everything. We have stores across KZN, from Toti to Salt Rock, Durban to Pietermaritzburg. You can also find us online at kingfisher.co.za.
Thank you, the Kingfisher. Guys, as always, we cannot have this show without our sponsors, the Kingfisher. Another year of having them going strong and delivering us the news. Remember, if you want to find that news on the newspapers, always just check it out there. The Kingfisher does a weekly report on 4 of the major newspapers in KZN. And if you want to give that a read, definitely do that. Now, let's get into the fishing news, guys. It is looking absolutely fantastic. You know what? We got a couple of days of that northeasterly coming up. That water is looking poised for some non-ed action, and those non-eds has been around. So let's find out where it is. Let's kick it off in Durban, where the water's not too bad. And we're going to talk about it with Mike V and Brad Krobler.
How's it, guys? It was a weekend of mixed fortunes. From some lovely edibles to some lovely inedibles. The Oaks got from both sides of the spectrum. Lovely keys. There's blacktop keys, GTs, 1 or 2 big eyes, down to a couple grays, spinners, milkies, odd diamond, odd sandy, things like that. I heard of one big honeycomb. Apparently there's 95 kilos at Glen Ashley. I still haven't seen a pic of it, but that's what I've heard. There was 1 or 2 blackfin around. There's still 1 or 2 zambies being caught by the guys putting baits out. But yeah, it's been mixed fortunes. When the water's been cool, there's been bite. The minute it's warmed up too much, bite's gone a bit quiet. And the paddle ski and ski boat side, a lot of juvenile cooter mixed in with the snook, a lot of snook around. Oaks are getting from, say, like 2-3 kilos up to about 8-9 kilo size snook. And in the mix, they're getting their 3 to 6 kilo size cooters. In the deep, quite a few dorado being caught, 1 or 2 salies around, some tunny around. So yeah, the guys fishing for those fish have been doing quite well. And again, Oaks putting live bait to the bottom. Been getting 1 or 2 doggers, 1 or 2 keelback, ambers, yellowtail, all those sort of things. So yeah, it's been a mixed bag on the go, and it's been a lot of fun. Durban Bay, grunters, snappers, small cobs, quite a few kingfish around, a lot of kingies around. I heard of one on ultralight of 62 centimeters. Not sure what that equates to, but that's a big fish on very light tackle. Yeah, so Durban Bay has been an absolute boil of fun. 1 or 2 springers still in the mix there. They will get more and more as we get into April, March, April. So yeah, let's hope it happens. Guys, this is Mike V for ANSA News.
Well, good morning, guys. It's Brad here from Linsky Fishing Charters. Well, guys, the fishing over the last week off the Durban area, the ski boat side. Guys, the weather was hot, as we all know, with lots of sun. Guys, the water temperature has got to what I'm going to call that ridiculous bit of situation where it's got to 27 to 29 degrees water temperature. There were a couple of game fish out in the deep, but really, we struggled really there. So we came back into the shallows. There were some cooter bites there, but there are so many sharks around that we actually never managed to land any. We had good pulls, good fish on, and then just got totally taxpaying out of all of that. On the bottom side, once again, it was slow. It was a really hard week of fishing out there. And then over the weekend, when the weather cooled down with a bit of the rain, current has come in from the running south to north. When I say current, is running at about 8 to 12 knots of current. So that's really has put a bit of a spanner in the works. And hopefully things can get better. And yeah, this is Brad for Angling News South Africa. And guys, tight lines, and speak to us all next week.
Thank you, Mike and Brad. Another good report with a variety of species coming out of Durban. But oh, that warm water. Looks like we are getting some freshly made sushi out there. Well, that water is pretty warm. And yes, I did hear about that drift being pretty strong. We had Michaela Daniels heading out this week. Got some beautiful fish. But you did also complain about that current. So spot on with that report, Brad. Now, let's move out of Durban. Let's find out from Michaela what's been going on up on the North Coast.
What's up, everyone? This is Michaela from Durban, reporting for Angling News SA. It's been another incredible week of fishing along our coast, with some absolute prize catches having come out. Starting off at Blue Lagoon, there's been some lovely size shad coming out, as well as a few GTs and grunter, while Beechwood has still been producing some nice inedibles and shad, with the odd grunter in between. Moving up to Virginia, there's still some shad and pompano coming out in the early mornings, while for our Mhlongo anglers, the shad is still coming out, as well as a few sand shark and rays. For Mhloti, the shad is still coming out, as well as a few stumpies and cave bass. For the offshore side of things, Durban is still producing plenty snook, dorado, and a couple of kuta, while for the bottoms, there's been some lovely rock hard, half cobs, and reds coming out, with a few yellowtail in between. For Mhloti, however, there's been snook and kuta in the shallower bait marks, while the deep is still producing a couple of dorado and yellowfin tuna, while for the bottoms, the guys are still getting into some lovely rock hard, cob, and a few yellowtail. Moving right up the coast to Belito, there's been plenty inedibles and shad coming out, as well as a few pompano, while St. Lucia is still producing big speckled snapper, diamond rays, GTs, and bartman. For the offshore side, Belito saw big dorado and yellowfin tuna come out over the past week, while the bottoms produce some lovely sized cob and rock. And lastly, for St. Lucia, there's been some massive yellowfin tuna coming out, as well as big bullfish, kuta, and dorado. That's really it from me for this week, guys. Tight lines, and have a great one.
Thank you, Michaela. What a beautiful report. You know what, guys? I never expected that amount of anglers to be out over last week, and I'm so glad they did. Look how well they were rewarded. So much of shad coming out. What is going on? Is the season changing? Do we have leftovers from last year? Did the run just end up too late and the fish are still coming through? It doesn't matter. Actually, you know what? I really don't care. There are some monster shad out there, and the guys are having an absolute blast. And apart from that, you know what? All that non-ed species, beautiful. That's exactly what summer's about. That's exactly what Michaela has delivered. And you know what? I am glad that their water did not get as affected as the South Coast, which we're going to touch on in a bit. Before we get there, let's chat to Jan with what's happening up in the Midlands. We know it's been cooking and boiling out there. Well, let's find out what happened with the fishing.
Hey there, guys. This is Jan here from Kingfish in Pietermaritzburg. So, rumor had it by some planetary motions that KZN had moved significantly closer to the sun. And after nearly 2 weeks of what was living in tantamount to a furnace, we are happy to report that perhaps it is an autumn chill that has its foot in the door. And in the same breath, woe betide anybody that starts complaining about winter. Let it come. This is good news for the water temperatures, as recent reports had Midmar sitting at a tepid bathwater-like 34 degrees centigrade. And even the high-altitude trout still waters had the mercury climbing to mid-20s. River temperatures were also scoring in the upper 20s. That is until the rains from the weekend provided some relief. The rainfall has been pretty much confined to a limited zone tight along the berg, with the result that the injection of water into the catchments has put the rivers back up, with the lower reaches showing the most effect with some high flow and coloured water. Current forecast for the upper Midlands has temperatures in the low to mid-20s, a far cry from the recent upper 30s and near 40 degrees centigrade. So guys, check your calendars, and with the respite from the heat, it's time to get out there. There have been no returns from the Natal Fly Fishers Club river anglers over the past week, but news from further afield is that with the water levels being up, it's back to slinging some heavy metal while the wait is on for dry fly water. Guys, a wading staff is recommended when fishing faster water, and when you're contemplating any stream or river crossings, approach with caution. Those water wings might still prove useful if you're planning to go for a swim. For the scaly anglers, the low reaches of the rivers remain coloured and blown out, and just a single return from the NFFC, stillwater anglers have reported warm ginger beer coloured water. Looks like they've had a lot of rain. Well, no kidding. But on the upside, there were also a couple of fish in the return. With the cooler nights in the coming forecast, dropping water temperatures should be on the cards, and on the flip side of February, I'm sure that we can start looking forward to the fish feeding up properly. With water temperatures well up into 30s, it seems that even the bass are taking a break. Midmar is producing some fish still, however, while tilapia are being reported from Albert Falls. Even Sterkfontein had a slight hiccup with the recent stormy weather, so reports Jeremy Rochester from Escape Fly Fishing. But there are still some good fish being reported. Top flies have been black and brown hopper, or cricket-style patterns, and along with that all-time staple, the good doctor's beetle. Some afternoon thunderstorms are providing ant hatches, so stock up on ant and termite patterns, suggests local guide David Weaver. Guys, do stop in the Kingfisher Matsburg for the best in tackle advice. And this is Jan reporting for Kingfisher and for Angler News South Africa.
Thank you, Jan. Another good detailed report. Thanks for the insights as to what's happening with those water levels, the weather levels, the tips to go and fish those areas. Yep, keep it low and slow. And sounds like the fish are boiling up there on the Midlands as well. At least there's some signs of some bass. I'm glad to hear about that. With this hot weather, I was wondering where they would be hiding. Maybe we just got some real pro anglers in KZN that can find the fish. It's good to hear about the carp and the tilapia out there. And, despite that hot weather, at least there's those yellowfish out at Staircase. So that's always a good sign. All right, now that's enough of the Midlands. Let's head on back down to the South Coast. And let's start off the South Coast with Ray Thompson.
There's been a lot of flatfish around this week, especially in the Scottborough area. Honeycombs, sandies, greys, and browns. That's been the target species in that vicinity. There's been one or two prodigals as well, and a few. Greenpoint has also thrown some prodigals, as well as some big sandies. Moving to Umkomaas Ledges, there's been some sandies, honeycombs, and browns. North bank of lots and lots of those small cob and the odd stumpy around. Going to over to Dean, it's been a little bit on the quiet side, but the deep water points like Anyoni have thrown some shad. Some nice kingies have been coming out, those 10 to 15 kilo ones just on the south side of the rocks. Winkel has also had quite a few fish around, some shad, the odd kingfish, but a lot of honeycombs and sandies been hooked and lost in that vicinity. Guys, acid pipe also, a few brown skates and sand sharks. Looking forward to the next couple of days. It is northeasterly, light northeasterlies, clean water. Guys, there's going to be a lot of flatfish around. So sharpen those hooks, make those traces, and get ready for a firing week.
Thank you, Ray. When you say it's a good weekend to be fishing, now I'm going to be taking it seriously. This guy, he's fishing club this weekend, and you know what? He usually is very tight-lipped when it comes to sharing those secrets and about how exciting the fishing is going to be on comp weekend, because he always feels the comp weekend is the worst weekend to fish. It's always the terrible weather, but he's feeling excited, he's feeling poised, and so are we. Now, let's get down to the lower South Coast. Things hasn't been all that rosy out there. It's been challenging due to last week's storms. The water is looking exceptionally brown. I've been getting footage from Adam all week as to waiting for this to settle. Guys, it will settle, and until it does, this is what you can expect from down there.
Hey, Vinesh, I hope you're doing well, my friend, and everyone out there at East Coast Radio has had a beautiful week so far. So, yes, we've had a couple of days of northeast, more than usual. We've had a bit of rain, we've had a bit of bad weather, we've had a bit of hot days, but it has not been that hot so far down in the South Coast, Vinesh. Unfortunately, when we think we're landing that unicorn, it's just ended up being a donkey. But a donkey is a donkey, my friend. So the guys that have gone out just before all that brown water pushed down, they got some bream, they got some brusher, they got some kingies. And as we know, it's brown water, which means non-ed territory. So bloody baits, mackerel, red eyes, a bit of chalk. Yes, guys, go out there and target those flatfish because they do love this particular type of water. Now, in terms of deep sea, there were a bit of ambers, there were a bit of yellowtail, a bit of tuna, but as this color line slowly develops further and further south, meaning into the ocean, things are not looking great. However, the South Coast is full of rivers, full of dams that we can go and target species that we might not have targeted before, or we have. You won't get bored, I promise, guys, especially on the South Coast. Otherwise, Vinesh, yes, my friend, going down to the Transguard, the guys are getting a couple of sharks down that side, but the lower South Coast, it hasn't been fireworks. But if we have a couple of days of west, the water will settle, the silt will settle, and hopefully the fish will come back. And here's to hoping, my friend. Otherwise, everyone out there, cross your toes, cross your eyes, cross your fingers, stay safe and tight lines. And let's see those catches, guys. I know it will improve. It's the South Coast.
Adam, you absolute legend. What could we do without you? Always so positive. That's what I love about it. That's what fishing should be about. Staying positive. This is what we need in our lives. Sometimes we go through that grind. We need that fix. We need to get out. We need that detach. We need to detox. And we just need to feel alive. And that's what fishing does to us. And Adam just knows, even with that muddy water, with that heavy sediment out there, he's still keeping us positive, and there's still something to catch. You guys go and fish the rivers, fish the harbor, fish the estuaries. If you're around a body of water where it's only poised for non-edible action and you're not that type of angler and you're looking for something else, there's plenty other areas to go and fish in KZN. Why not even try your hand in some fresh water? Go and try for some bass or carp or even some barbel. That's the beauty of where we are. That's the beauty of what we do. There is always something to catch. So make sure to get out there and get those rods bending. The weather's looking good. The water is settling. It is poised for certain species. So select your gear wisely. Select your area wisely. And with that being said, until the next one.
This is the Angler News SA podcast. I'm Vanessa Green. Find more episodes at ecr.co.za under podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Let's fish for the future.